So some basics of the turbomachinery blades and some definitions. I think so. When you think of a turbomachinery blade, which has the cross section of an aerofoil, okay, so it has a length or height h and a chord. So this h by ch, that's called the aspect ratio. So that is one important parameter. Then the other one I wanted to talk about is the stagger angle. So when you have a blade profile, when you keep it on the flat surface, you get the angles theta 1 and theta 2. Theta 1 at leading edge, so that's the angle between the tangent drawn at the leading edge to the camber line and the horizontal direction. Similarly, exit, you have the trailing camber line, so tangent for the camber line at trailing edge, that is one direction, then horizontal direction. So there you have the angle theta 2. So you will find that this theta is actually sum of these two angles. Okay, it can be easily shown in this configuration. Now when you keep it in a turbo machine, maybe a compressor, or in this case what you see is the cascade of a turbine, large angle of deflection, the flow will be accelerated. So the same blade can be kept like this, such that there is an additional angle here, stagger angle. So the angle between the cascade axis and the chord. So this way, actually the entry angle, that is if it is a rotor, the beta 1 and beta 2, they can be adjusted for the design requirement. Okay, so blade sections, when it is kept in the cascade form, they are staggered. Okay, that means the chord is inclined. So this forms part of the design. So depending on the angles beta 1 and beta 2 and what sort of profile is used, it will be done. Then we have the cascade pitch chord ratio is another important parameter, which is the dimension S divided by CH. This may be S, or people use P also for pitch. So pitch chord ratio. So this pitch will be relatively less in the case of turbines. Compressors, it will be little more. Then another thing is incidence angle I and deviation angle delta. So you have the blade profile, you have the tangent at the entry, the tangent at exit. At the entry, if the flow direction is not along the tangent and if it is inclined in the way shown here, then we say that there is a positive incidence angle of I. If the direction of flow goes on the other side of the tangent, it will be negative incidence. Similarly, on the exit side, you have the blade tangent, you have the flow direction. So this way, the angle between these two directions is the deviation. So how much the flow deviates from the tangent. So deviation and overall, the deflection of the flow direction or the flow, that is an important thing which we measure in a turbo machinery. So as I had given you earlier, two important things. One is the loss, which cannot be calculated, you have to measure only. The other thing is this deviation. Okay. Next we will go for the velocity triangles for axial flow turbo machine, and we will take the case of an axial flow compressor. Okay, there are two blades indicated. This is the rotor cascade. So you have the inlet, the velocity, relative velocity W1 is shown here, the flow velocity or the fluid velocity C1, the blade velocity is U. Similarly, at the exit also you can draw the velocity triangle. W2, C2 and U. I have not marked the directions here, but the angles with respect to the axial direction are indicated. Alpha 1, beta 1 at entry and alpha 2, beta 2 at exit. Now, the inlet velocity triangle can be drawn the other way of the parallelogram also. So that you have W1, then U like this and C1 like this. If you draw that, you can take that velocity triangle and place it on the exit velocity triangle, because the U is same for exit and entry, because the radius is same and U is nothing but pi d n by 60. So this way you get a combined velocity triangle, okay, on the same base U. So most of the discussion that follows today will be based on this combined thing. Okay, now I may call it the combined velocity triangle or the velocity trapezium. It's a trapezium, okay, two parallel sides and two adjacent sides. Now in this combined thing, you can actually show the direction of the blades, or the blades can be indicated like this. If you look at this point, at the relative velocity is at W1, and when the flow leaves, it is at W2. So I can think of a blade, a shape like this. I can put it here, and that is actually the rotor blade. Similarly, for C1 and C2, there after C2, the blade direction, the flow direction will be changed to some C3, which will be same as C1. Remember, there will be a number of stages. Most probably in axial flow compressors, you will have 8, 10, many stages will be there, because each stage the pressure developed will be less. Okay, so in the combined velocity triangle, you should know how to sketch the blades, so that you will get some practical or physical idea about how the flow is changing its direction. Okay, so at the intersection, W1 and W2, you can show the rotor blade, and at the intersection of C1 and C2, you can show the stator blade. So these rotor and stator cascades are shown here. So they are one and the same. That is, these rotor blades are put here in the cascade format. Similarly, the stator blades, after the blades, for the next stage, the stator is there. So after this stator, the flow direction will become C1 for the next stage. Okay. Now you can generally see the velocity triangles. The combined velocity triangles are the velocity trapezium, and the corresponding thermodynamic diagram or the TS diagram. So I should say this is for the momentum considerations. The TS diagram is for energy considerations. Okay, so you have initially the T01, the stagnation temperature or corresponding enthalpy, and the first portion is a rotor. Energy is added, and the stagnation condition moves over to T02, and you will have the maximum stagnation pressure. Then in the stator, T02, T02 becomes T3, so that the stagnation temperature does not change, but you will find a small degradation in the stagnation pressure from P02 to P03. Then coming to velocity triangle, this is fairly easy to draw. Okay, the combined velocity triangle, that is, the bounding lines of the combined velocity triangles is a trapezium, the velocity trapezium. The base of the trapezium is U, the blade velocity. Its adjacent sides are W2 and C1 vectors, and the opposite side gives delta Cu, which is also equal to delta Wu, which is equal to Cu2 minus Cu1 equal to Wu1 minus Wu2. Okay, now if I multiply this by U, I will get the specific work. We know that Euler equation is specific work is equal to U delta of UCU, that is U1 CU1 minus U2 CU2 in the case of turbines. Here in compressor it will be U2 CU2 minus U1 CU1, and for axial flow machines U1 and U2 are same. Okay, so you can take out, so specific work will be U into CU2 minus CU1. Okay, that's what is indicated, and from the figure you will see that that is also equal to WU1 minus WU2. Okay, now you can see another thing. The vertical line, the vertical dropped from the delta CU side of the velocity trapezium divides the base U in the ratio R is to 1 minus. Okay, we'll see that in the next slide. Okay, so the non-dimensional velocity trapezium, if the velocities are divided by the blade velocity. Actually, I am going to convert it into non-dimensional form. Okay, I divide each of the velocity by U so that the bottom base will be 1. That U divided by U will be 1. This height is actually the flow velocity CF, and CF divided by U will give me the flow coefficient phi. Okay, this will become the flow coefficient. Similarly, the top side delta CU, so that when you divide by U, that will give you another important parameter psi, the loading coefficient. And when you drop, from the top side, from the midpoint, so that will divide the base into R is to R minus 1. Okay, this derivation we'll see. It's actually the delta of UCU by U square, that is called the loading coefficient, denoted by psi. And because this U is there and the denominator U square is there, finally you will have only delta CU by U. So that is exactly the length here in the non-dimensional form. One thing is missing. Derivation is missing. We'll see later. Okay, some interesting things about the non-dimensional velocity trapezium. So you have two important types of such diagrams. One is for 50% reaction machines, or in this case 50% reaction axial flow compressor. So there the top side is there. Okay, that is actually psi. Midpoint from that, if you drop, you will get exactly 0.5. So the other side also you have 0.5. So basically it is a symmetric one. And looking at the symmetry, you can say that beta 1 is equal to alpha 1, alpha 2 is equal to beta 1. Okay, so for a 50% reaction machine, it is going to be like that. Are you hearing? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Then another important configuration, the impulse turbines. Now that's very popular, but the impulse compressors are not very popular. They are not, very rarely used. So in such a case, the degree of reaction will be 0. So what happens is, from the top side, which denotes the loading coefficient psi, from the midpoint, if I drop a line, it should exactly go through this point where R is 0. Okay, so this top side, when I move, in this direction, degree of reaction will go on increasing. So when the midpoint, the perpendicular drops from that midpoint, falls here, the degree of reaction is 0. When I move the psi side towards right, and finally when the midpoint moves on the other end, what will be the degree of reaction?
Zero.
Degree of reaction? Here it is 0. I take this side xi, move it horizontally. See, as I move that there, the midpoint also moves there. The perpendicular dropped from that midpoint, that also will fall, increasing amount, indicating that the degree of reaction is increasing. Now finally, I will come to this end where the midpoint, the perpendicular drops from the midpoint will fall exactly here at the end of the arrowhead of the u vector. Then what is the degree of reaction there?
1.
It is 1. Okay, so theoretically it is right. Whether you will have or not, it's a question, and one may think of more than 1, less than 1 by this jugglery, but in practice all the degree of reaction for compressor will be around 0.5. That means this top side you may move little bit left towards or towards right. Okay, in turbines everything is possible. The impulse is very, very popular one. In the steam turbines, initial stages will be impulse, where you may get a velocity triangle combination like this. Okay, now some sort of derivation. Before that, okay, you have 3 important non-dimensional design parameters: the flow coefficient phi, the loading coefficient psi, and the degree of reaction R. If you remember, the degree of reaction is defined as 1 minus the fraction of energy transfer is degree of reaction. 1 minus the fraction of energy transfer. Okay, so I think the line here, it should be 1 minus. It is not this WSP doesn't divide this 1. Okay, so this line should be cut short here. Other one is delta H rotor, that is enthalpy change in the rotor divided by enthalpy change in the stage. That may be written as enthalpy change in the rotor by stagnation enthalpy change in the stage or in the rotor. Okay, because stagnation enthalpy will change only in the rotor. So we can write for the stage also. This is there because when the inlet velocity C1 and final for the next stage also, when you have some C3, if they are same, obviously instead of delta H stage I can write delta H naught stage. Okay, these are the definitions. Now I can well indicate. Let me come to the previous one. Okay, now this R degree of reaction this. Okay, we can express these parameters phi, psi, and r as functions of the angles, or the angles can be expressed by the parameters phi, psi, and r. Now we'll see how the parameter phi can be expressed in terms of these angles. Okay. Now looking at this figure, phi is this vertical height, so that is equal that into tan beta 2. That will give me this base plus phi into tan alpha 2. That will give you from this to this. So total length is 1 in the non-dimensional parameter. Okay, in the non-dimensional trapezium, velocity trapezium, base is 1. So that base is made up of 5 into tan beta 2 and 5 into tan alpha 2. So from there I can write phi is equal to 1 by beta 2 plus tan alpha 2. In the same manner, I'll be able to write phi is equal to 1 by tan beta 1 plus tan alpha 1. Okay, if I think of this point, so from this end to here, I have 5 tan beta 1. Then from here to the other end, it will be 5 tan alpha 1. Okay, so that way I can represent phi by the angles. Similarly, psi. See, psi is equal to this top side. That is equal to from this end to the point here. That is 5 tan beta. Sorry. Yeah. It is equal to 5 tan beta 1. That is up to this minus the initial portion. That will be 5 tan beta 2. Okay. So psi will be 5 tan beta 1 minus 5 tan beta 2. Similarly, it will be written as 5 tan beta 1 minus 5 tan beta 2. Then phi you can substitute from this, so that psi can be now given as a function of the angles. Okay. Then in the same manner, r, degree of reaction. Looking at this figure, r is from this end to the point here. So that is equal to r phi beta 2. That is up to this point. Then the next one is psi by 2. Okay. So in psi, already I will have that 5 in the denominator. So that is taken as a common denominator. So tan beta 2 plus, from the psi I have taken tan beta 1 minus tan beta 2. So I get an expression like this. So if I simplify, I get it as tan beta 1 plus tan beta 2 divided by tan beta 2 plus tan alpha 2. Okay. So in general, you can express any of these parameters by any 3 angles. So you can see how many combinations it will be possible. So if I ask you to find out the expression where psi is represented by alpha 1, alpha 2 and beta 2, you should be able to do that. Simple trigonometry only, and a little bit of understanding of the combined velocity trapezium. Now here the angles are represented, the 4 angles are represented by the non-dimensional parameters, the design parameters phi, psi, and R. Okay, this is fairly important because from design considerations, you have phi limited to some range, psi limited to some range, and you may choose a degree of reaction equal to 0.5. Then immediately, from these values you can get the blade angles. Okay, the blade angles where these things will be satisfied. Now look at the first equation, how we get beta 1. So tan beta 1, if I take, that will be tan beta 1 will be this side up to this, that is R plus some additional portion, that will be half psi by 2. I'm sorry, it is psi by 2, half of psi. So tan beta 1 will be this base up to here divided by 5. Okay. Similarly, tan beta 2 will be tan beta 2. So a measure up to this point divided by 5. So measure up to this point will be R up to this minus this portion, which is psi by 2. R minus psi by 2 by 5. Then we have alpha 1 and alpha 2 in the same manner we can give. So tan alpha 1 is here, that must be this distance, which is actually 1 minus from this end to this point. So that is a combination of R plus psi by 2. So tan inverse 1 minus R plus psi by 2 divided by 5. Then tan alpha 2. Tan alpha 2, if we take, that is actually from this point to the end divided by 5. So this point up to the end is, you have R up to this plus psi by 2. That means up to this point you get. There's something wrong in this. Tan alpha 2 should be this distance. Okay, that is 1 minus R plus psi by 2. Okay, so 1 minus 1. Okay, some error is there. It is not tan alpha 2 is here. Okay, so that I will check, there is something wrong there. Okay. Okay, now generally the issues in a axial flow compressor. So one is these design parameters, phi, psi, and the degree of reaction. The other important thing is the speed U2. Okay, so that will be the fourth consideration, U2. And the next consideration is, if the total pressure ratio is so much, and if you have 10 stages, how you allocate the pressure ratio for the stages, allocation of work or pressure ratio for the different stages. So we can think of two methods. One is, for each stage the pressure ratio is constant. Okay, so if the pressure ratio is in a single stage is, say, some x, then for n stages it will be x power n. Okay, that is one thing. The second method could be, the total stagnation temperature gain for the pressure ratio. Okay, that is delta T naught total. So that you equally divide. So that will actually give you equal work for each stage. So these are some of the issues which one has to initially design before going into the detailed design. Okay. So any doubt? So with this basics, we'll be actually working out some problems in axial flow compressors. See, axial flow compressors will also have those limitations, the surge and the choking. Okay, like centrifugal compressors. Here also, when the flow or when the discharge is very less, surging could occur. Some reversal of flow might also take place. The other one is choking, that occurs at high volume flow rate. Finally, at some passage, the Mach number 1 is reached and the mass flow rate will not increase further. So that would occur. Then here choking and surging is more complicated because so many rows are there. So where exactly initially it starts, they are all complicated issues. Okay. Then this surging, they are all related to another thing called you have stall. So when you talk about aerofoil, when the single aerofoil, when you give incidence, at a particular incidence, you find that the lift suddenly drops. So that's called the occurrence of stall, and the corresponding incidence is called stalling incidence. So it's very, very dangerous by giving very large incidence where you may get good lift, but suddenly the lift coefficient will drastically drop because of stall. Okay. So any doubt? Okay. I'll close then. Tomorrow we'll meet.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Okay, sir.
Okay.